And now, local sports with Dustin Nolan.
Sterling Newman has won their first 2 games of the season. Now they're looking to win their next 2 games of the season as the Comets want to make the 2021 spring football season perfect. So let's go out to the highlights, see if they can do it. Newman hosting St. Bede. We start in the first quarter. Comets driving the field. Andrew Velasquez gets a handoff, and he's in for the touchdown here. Extra point would be no good. It's 6-0 Comets. Second quarter, 3rd down for St. Bede, and Andrew Velasquez and Brady Stevens with a big hit here. That brings up 4th and 12 for St. Bede. Newman's football now. Andrew Velasquez with the ball, and he's going to bounce it outside. Lowers the shoulder here for the first down. A few plays later, Andrew Velasquez going to work again, and he gets the ball, and he's in for his 2nd touchdown of the day. Comets would go for 2, and it's Andrew Velasquez on the sweep, and he throws it to Brett Newman in the end zone. That makes it 14-0 as Newman goes on to win this one 35-6 as they stay perfect on the season at 3-0. All right, now Geneseo versus Quincy. Maple Leafs looking for their 2nd win of the season. We start in the first quarter. Mason Jones gets into the end zone for the touchdown. It's 21-0 Geneseo. Quincy with the ball now, going for it on 3rd down. Blue Devils trying to make something happen, but P.J. Mosier is going to chase down the quarterback, and he's going to get the stop. Blue Devils would have to punt. Maple Leafs ball. Geneseo going to the air. Nathan Beneke to Jaden Wanazaril for a 1st down here. Maple Leafs inside the 5-yard line. Next play, Bruce Moore gets a handoff, and he's in for the touchdown. He would have 141 yards and 3 touchdowns on the day as Geneseo gets the win 42-7. They move to 2-2 on the year. Final game for the St. Ambrose Fighting Bees as they try to pick up their 6th win of the season. So let's go out to Brady Street Stadium for this one and see if they can do it. It was senior day for the Bees, and they take on Roosevelt. We start in the first quarter, 4th down for the Lakers, and Jackson Nelson comes up with the sack turnover. St. Ambrose football. Declan McDonald to Yimmy Ward for the 1st down, and the Fighting Bees are marching down the field a few plays later. Declan McDonald drops back. He's going to look for someone downfield, and he's going to find Blake Whitman along the sideline for the 1st down. Ambrose would fumble the ball later on in that drive. Lakers would recover, but next St. Ambrose possession, Hall gets the handoff, and he picks up a huge 1st down for the Bees. That run would lead to a Tom Gillen 21-yard field goal, but Roosevelt gets the win in this one, 24-17. And the Quad City Nighthawks kicking off their season today. As you can see, it was quite a bit muddy out there at Centennial Park, but the Nighthawks were able to get enough going to get the win tonight as the Nighthawks get the win 7-0. How about some volleyball? Sterling hosting Rockford Lutheran in a non-conference matchup. We start in the 2nd set. Brooklyn Borum with the heat for the kill there. 5-4 Sterling. Later, more from Sterling, and Bree Borum's going to go to work with the hammer here. She gets the kill. Sterling goes up 8-5. Sterling isn't done yet. Grace Egan, and she's going to get a kill of her own. It's 15-8 Sterling. Later, Grace Egan putting in some more work, and she's going to put some heat behind this one for another kill as Sterling goes on to win 2-0 in 2 sets. Trent Frazier turning pro. The Illinois senior announced on Friday afternoon he's entering his name in the NBA draft, hiring an NCAA-approved agent after tweeting his time with the Illini was over, but leaving the door for a potential return. Frazier can use an extra year of eligibility if the NCAA passed a blanket COVID-19 waiver. The Florida native scored more than 1,400 points in his career. That's good for 19th all-time in school history, so we'll see if he declares for the NBA or he comes back for another year. And in some MLB action, Brewers taking care of the Cardinals 9-5, and the Cubs coming up short to the Pirates 8-2. And in the NHL, Blackhawks break a 6-game road losing streak with a 4-3 win tonight. And in day 3 of the Masters, Matsuyama had a great day. He shot a 65 and finished in the lead at 11 under. First bogey-free round this week. He goes into the final day as the leader with Justin Rose tied for 2nd on the day with 2 others. Well, more coverage of the Masters right here on Local 4 News at 10 tomorrow. And that's it for sports. We'll be right back.